Your teapot is actually bigger than
Take them.
Thanks for that.
This pan is big.
Hello, everybody.
Salam alaikum. Peace be upon you and welcome to Salam Cafe. Absolutely fantastic show for you tonight. Of course, we've got Salam Cafe to go. We've got two special guests from the Allah Made Me Funny tour. Firstly, Preacher Moss. And Azhar Usman. The show's nothing without my panellists and the barista, and tonight, taking Azhar's place, is Nazim Hussain. To my left, of course, we've got two lovely ladies here, Toltu Tufa and Declina Madkhul. And as for the happy couple to my right, Susan Carlin and Waleed Ali, looking beautiful in blue.
That we had the spring racing carnival, the Melbourne Cup, a couple of weeks ago.
How could you forget?
Yeah, I know, it was huge. It was huge. Actually, I didn't even watch the race. But it was ironic, I think, that of all the events in the Melbourne calendar of sporting and public exciting events, this is the one with the most Muslim involvement. Now, I say it's ironic because this is an event that's pretty much totally based on gambling. You know, billions of dollars are gambled by people all over the world, especially in Australia. And of course, gambling is completely prohibited in Islam. Now, why?
And drinking, of course.
Oh, and drinking, yes, drinking.
Isn't
and flesh on parade.
Isn't the Melbourne
and hats. And we're kind of down with the headpiece. But anyway, why it's ironic that Muslims are involved is, like I said, because of the gambling. But there's quite a level of Muslim involvement. First of all, you'll find that pretty much every second race is sponsored by Emirates, the airline. Now, there's always a few sheikhs in there from Dubai or Emirates or whatever that are racing horses.
They've always got, yeah. And this year it was even better because the favourite, like the horse of all horses, was owned by one of these chefs from, I don't know, is it Arab Emirates or something? And his name was Talqeet.
You couldn't tell.
Name, the horse's name.
The horse's name.
Not the chef.
No, not the chef. I mean, you can tell them apart, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was, the horse's name was Talqeet, which in Arabic means timing.
Right.
Good name for a racehorse.
Yeah. I reckon it's quite ironic, actually, because to have the name Talqeet, which is like what, timing, is the most ironic thing, considering that there's one thing Muslims can't do, it's be on time.
Otherwise known as Muslim Standard Time. Very true. Although we've got to say, during Ramadan fasting time, this Muslim Standard Time doesn't apply. Come break of fast.
Yeah, we are
No
there.
way,
In the
Jose.
house.
To the second,
Absolutely.
it's time to break fast.
Synchronised watches.
As of now.
Yeah.
No paleo dates, poised.
No, but the end to this story, of course, is fantastically ironic because Talqeet, timing, the favourite, came almost stone motherless last. But the fact is, it still remains true that he ran faster than every other horse in the field. He just turned up half an hour late.
So he was wanted otherwise.
In true Muslim spirit.
Let's move on to someone who was on time, which is the Salam Cafe to Go team. Have a look at this one. It's very, very good. Let's have a look. Salam Cafe to Go.
Last week we went to Frankston Beach. Today we're here at Hawthorn Town Hall for a public meeting called Building Bridges, where the students of various schools asked, can those of different religions, faiths and values live together in peace? So the students here from Muslim schools, Christian schools and Jewish schools, let's go see what it's all about and see if we've got some answers. So, are you a Muslim, Christian or a Jew?
I'm Jewish.
We're here today to build some bridges between other faith-based communities.
I think it's amazing. I mean, I'm not too sure if what they set up there properly reflected what we did, because our school, I think, took it a bit too literally. We took a bus down to Sydney and worked on a bridge near the Opera House. I believe you've heard of it. It's called Sydney Harbour.
It's a really good way to show that, to get rid of the misconceptions, as you say, and show that we're all the same and that we should stop generalising and build bridges.
What school do you go to?
I go to Scotch College.
I go to Scotch College! You know my surname's Hussain?
That's pretty cool.
Saddam Hussein's not my dad. Do you know many Muslim people?
Not a lot, but I know lots now. And it's really nice, actually.
Now, what do you think we could do every day to sort of break down stereotypes about Muslims, Christians and Jews?
Speak to Muslims, Christians and Jews. Ask them about themselves. We'll learn who they are and what they're about.
We may look at things differently, we may have different interests, different ways of expressing our life experience and our faith, but we're all united in the sense that we're all connected into the human family.
So what would you say to those people that don't know anything about the headscarf and just criticise it?
They should learn more about Islam and don't say the first thing that pops into their mind.
They should have a nice warm cup of Milo.
Harmony within the community and making sure that everybody coexists within the communities, really, it underpins everything else. So it's a small contribution that I make by coming along tonight.
Do you like kebabs?
Yeah, not bad. I like the Greek one, souvlaki, which is the real one.
Oh, when you used to think of Muslims, the first thing that came to your mind, what was that?
People that wear things on their heads.
From this activity, I've gotten to know a lot of Christian and Jewish people, and I live in Patterson Lake, so like everyone's Christian and Jewish. Salam Cafe.
Salam Cafe, yeah! Salam Cafe.
Salam Cafe.
Salam Cafe.
Salam Cafe!
Yeah, looks like a great event. Now, at this time we would normally get Ahmed Hassan doing It's a Muslim Thing, but you've got me, which means you're going to get something entirely different. And this is something I think that actually applies to pretty much any faith. I was just wondering, you guys must have noticed that in every single faith there's always the miracles that make the press. And my favourite was the piece of toast that apparently had Jesus' face on it.
Yeah. On eBay, sold on eBay.
Which probably would have scared me more than anything, but I wouldn't have thought of selling it on eBay. But with Muslims, I reckon we're into all these things too, and occasionally you get one that is actually pretty amazing, and this one really is. Take a look at this photo of a tree. It's a tree that's in Australia, and that looks incredibly like a person who is actually bowing in prayer exactly the way Muslims do, and moreover, it is actually facing towards Mecca.
No.
Which is pretty amazing. At least that's what I'm told. Maybe I just made that up. But the thing that Muslims get really fired up about is when you see, when we claim to see sort of Allah written in Arabic, pretty much anywhere in the world, where sometimes it's pretty hard to make out, let's be honest. And what we've done here is just found a few floating around that we've put together. And what we'll do is we'll put the little calligraphy in the bottom corner so you can actually make your own comparison, make your own judgment. We report, you decide. And
it sounds like Fox News.
The first one, this first one is a photo of the Earth taken from space, where apparently the ocean, the waves are meant to look like that. See what you reckon. That's not bad.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That looks like a country.
All right, well, let me tell you, that's about as good as it gets. This next one...
not downhill from there.
Here what we've got, moving from natural phenomena into food. This is an apple, where apparently the skin has some resemblance to Allah's name.
I can't see it. Okay, that's just bruising, all right? That's just...
But my favourite, this is really my all-time favourite, is this is a lion that apparently when it roars is saying Allah. Now, look, you make the call for yourself. Just have a listen.
The funniest thing is that they take it absolutely seriously. And if you speak to some people, definitely.
Well, stop press. I think I've got something that actually beats that, everyone. BBC News World Edition has reported that Allah's name has been found in the Quran. I know. Muslims in Digbeth were in the news when a local man came across the name of Allah whilst he was reading the Quran.
Incredible.
The news caused many locals to queue in their tens. Now, whilst praying, the man noticed in the text of the Quran that it contained the name of the Almighty. However, a study by the Helsinki International Federation for Allah in My Subzi has concluded that the amount of times the name of the Almighty has appeared in the Quran suggests that it will not create mass hysteria. Of course, we think if it was in a melon, spelt out in melon pips, or in a kumquat preserved in honey, there would have been crowds of people coming. Instead, we have it in plain Arabic. Where's the fun in that?
I agree.
So something that is definitely funny is the Allah Made Me Funny tour. If you haven't been to see these guys, they are absolutely fantastic. After the break, We're going to have Azhar Usman, a comedian from the US, with us. Let's go to the break and see him after this.
Yeah, I guess you could say that the war on terror has led to sort of a siege mentality amongst the Muslim community. You know, the government's out to get us, and spies are following us. They're listening to your phone calls. All these sort of conspiracy theories. I mean, I don't really buy into that sort of thing. Like my mom always says, you know, be careful what you say on the phone because they're listening to you. Yeah, hi, mama. Yeah, 5 o'clock? Who's they? You know? Secret agents with their, you know. You know, it's just... I think I would notice if someone was following me around.
That was fantastic, but speaking of fantastic, we've got with us tonight an American stand-up Muslim comedian who's been profiled in the New York Times and is here for the Allah Made Me Funny tour. Give a big Salam Cafe welcome to Mr. Azhar Usman. Muslims and comedy, it's an unknown term. You must have. How did you break into this? How does a Muslim go? Oh, yeah, I'll get into stand-up comedy.
We sold out. That was the first thing I did. I actually have always been fascinated with comedy, and first tried stand-up comedy actually when I was a teenager. Bombed miserably, no pun intended. And just had such a horrible experience. I was terrified to try it again. So
Who was this for?
This was actually for a Muslim audience. It was an Eid event in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which was a tough crowd. Yeah.
Mm.
So anyway, I was horrible. I was absolutely horrible. I actually remember the jokes that I tried to tell.
You moved on?
Yeah, I moved on. No, I can't. I'm too embarrassed. But it took me a good 10 years to recover from that brutal experience. Yeah, the cut was very deep. So anyway, I finally got back into stand-up. And I always wanted to try it. I was very intimidated by stand-up comedy. It's a very particular art form.
Yeah.
And you've got to write a lot of material, and it's very writing intensive. So, you know, I could always do improv comedy, but I was much more intimidated by stand-up. Finally, I worked up the courage to try it. I'm a real nerd at heart. So I went out and bought a book.
The dummy's guide to stand-up comedy.
Exactly, how to write a stand-up act.
How to be funny.
That's exactly right. So I finally started working on an act, and then I got on stage at an open mic in early 2001. It actually went quite well, and so I was very inspired to continue to do it, and I, as I say, caught the comedy bug and never looked back.
How is it though that you chose comedy as opposed to picking a different art form? There's music, there's singing, there's dancing, I guess, but so why comedy?
Yeah, I am a dancer as well.
Ouch, okay.
No, I actually am a horrible dancer. I think it's because comedy is a very subtle art. One of the names of God in Islam is Al-Latif, the subtle one. And I fell in love with comedy for the fact that it's a very subtle form of communication. It's probably the most subtle form, in fact, of all human communication. And so the fact that humor is a way where you can actually get across a message, even a very serious message, in a way that's very accessible and very friendly and non-threatening is something that always attracted me to comedy.
Tell me, who do you test your stuff on? There must be some poor family member that you always go, hey, I've got a new line.
My wife is, God bless her, is a very patient woman.
Does she think you're funny?
She doesn't like comedy.
You married well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually quite good because if I can make her laugh, A+.
She's your biggest fan.
A+ material. But generally speaking, I think that over time you start to develop kind of a comedic sensibility and start finding your own voice as a comic. I'm still a young comic. Jerry Seinfeld, who I'm sure is popular here like he is everywhere, says that your age in comedy is the number of years you've been doing it. So I'm barely 6 years old. So I'm still kind of a toddler.
So being a toddler, where has being a toddler taken you around the world? Obviously not just Australia.
It's been a really exciting ride. Again, I started doing a lot of comedy in the Muslim community. Kind of started out there and have built an audience, I think, in that niche. And really, by the grace of God, I've been blessed. I've gone to the UK, to of course, around the UK, Wales, Scotland, been to the Netherlands, been to Brussels, been to Denmark a couple of times.
So people love this, obviously, for you to be going around the world.
It's been really well received. I mean, it's when we started the Allah Made Me Funny tour, the other comedian who's actually the founder of the tour, and he invited me to be his co-founder, Preacher Moss, who your viewers will see later in the show.
Definitely.
Fantastic comic who's been doing stand-up for over 20 years. And when he reached out to me to start the tour, we really had very modest goals for ourselves. We thought if we did 30 shows in 3 years, we'd be happy. We set out to do this tour and did 50 shows in 1 year.
Wow.
So the response was overwhelmingly positive, and people have been really connecting with the show.
So, Azhar, you sound like you're a very passionate Muslim. Does comedy at all inspire you to become a better Muslim, or does religion inspire your comedy?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Care to answer?
That would be a politician. And I won't answer the question. I'll answer the one question. I think that's a fantastic question, though. Where does religion begin and end, and where does art begin and end, and what's the relationship between those two? My own belief is that religion fundamentally is about human experience. We tend to think of religion as something theoretical and abstract, but in fact, there is no religion without human beings. We experience real connections with God, and then the way we express that through our lives is what religion becomes. And so my view is that, art is very much a medium that has always been the kind of matrix through which religion is translated into, religious ideals are translated into everyday religious experience. So I think it's a very difficult question to answer. I think
so basically it's the chicken egg.
It's very much.
Which came first? Which came first?
The other day we went to Coles supermarket, and you just started cracking up in the cereal department when I went to get the Sultana brand. What's with that?
Sultana is the name of a woman.
Well, yeah.
What do you call dried up grapes then?
Sultana is a raisin.
A raisin.
We have raisins and sultanas here.
Exactly.
Oh, is that right?
In Ausland, yeah.
You better brush up on all this before you go on a stage in Sydney.
If you weren't in Melbourne at the Comedy Theatre on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, you missed out a heck of a show. In Brisbane, Thursday night, if you're watching Wednesday night in Salam Cafe in Brisbane, get along Thursday night to Brisbane's, I think it's on the internet, the information. And next weekend, the 24th and 25th in Sydney, check Salam Cafe website, it's got all the details. Allah Made Me Funny, starring Azhar Usman and his co-founder, Mr. Preacher Moss, and he'll be back after the break with Preacher Moss. So thank you very much. Welcome back. Now, the second half of the Allah Made Me Funny tour is this man sitting to my right, who has written for Comedy Central in the US and Dave Chappelle. He's co-founder of the Allah Made Me Funny tour. Please, Salam Cafe, big welcome for Mr. Preacher Moss. You don't have to cut yourself. So tell us, why Allah made you funny?
Well, we say Allah made me funny. Why? Why not?
Okay, and that's all for Thanks, Mr. Moss. Now the tour. What about the tour? Tell us about the tour.
The tour, man, is is Azhar and our way of contributing to what we felt was a scenario of being able to give Muslims an avenue to come out and enjoy themselves, get some entertainment, get some education, but also get some empowerment.
So what has been the reaction, therefore, if that's the basis to the Allah Made Me Funny?
Well, a lot of people, they didn't think, Muslims and comedy, that's sort of like, George Bush and peace. They didn't go together. But, the fact is, we have a tour that's endured for 2.5 years. It's funny. It's a community project. A lot of people don't realize that. Wherever Azhar and I go as comedians, we always have this feeling that we're home, and Melbourne is no exception. It's same as New Zealand, except for customs.
So how's your home in Melbourne? How's the hotel room? All nice and warm and
we hear
cozy?
It's all right. It's just small, And that hotel's so small. When you salam out, you turn to the left, have to step outside. Otherwise, you hit your chin on the sink. Bam!
You've obviously done a lot of comedy before.
Yes.
You've been doing almost social activism type comedy. Is that, am I overstating that?
No, that's what I started out as. That's what I continue to be. I did social humor for a lot of years. Talking about isms, poverty, racism, sexism, things of that nature, and kind of expanded. And once, it was, the idea of Allah Made Me Funny came before 9/11. I don't want people to think that, oh, it's 9/11, let's go out and get him. There were problems, there were problems pre-existing, 9/11. And, so I like to say, 9/11 was tough for me as African American, because you went from being a black man to being an American. And I wasn't ready.
I wasn't on the plan.
It sounds like a lot of the success that's come about, that's probably based on the fact that people who don't come from a Muslim background are, pretty happy with your stuff and they find it funny.
I think it's interesting. The story of Allah Made Me Funny is really like the story of Salam Cafe. It's not the people that do the show, it's the people that come out and support the show. And, while we talk about the reaction of the Muslim audience, I got to give a heads up, especially going to New Zealand and coming here. The reaction of the non-Muslim audience, just like in the States, has been tremendous, because you have a growing amount of people who are not Muslim, but they really get it. And I think that, that's the powerful part of it,
You spoke, sorry?
It's like now, comedy's acceptable. We have, like, imams telling jokes now, Not good jokes.
Here, actually.
Exactly. Not good jokes,
Some people didn't get it. You've spoken of this tour almost as though like it's a kind of protest tour.
Absolutely.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the tradition of African Americans, we're protest people, and a lot of what I saw was that pre and post 9/11, we had this big, elephant in the room. Nobody figured out how to talk about it, how to express it. And I grew up, I'm a kid of the 60s. So, you grew up watching Dick Gregory. He would do a show at the Hungry Eye in San Francisco and then fly to Greenville, Mississippi to, do a food lift, because they didn't want the African Americans down there to vote. So they would hold back their food and farming materials, and then you go back and do it. I mean, I'm not at that level of dedication yet, but inshallah one day I will be. But I think it's interesting that the whole way he was able to explain a process that was new to African Americans, which was go out and get your freedom, go out and request your equality, look at the laws, and he did it with a smile on his face. And that's the enduring situation scenario. When I talked to him about, being Muslim when I worked with him a while back, he was like, man, just be true to what you say. He said, and people find sincerity in what you're trying to do, and they'll take it on themselves, and then that's when you really get things moving. So thank you, Muslims, non-Muslims.
Thank you very much.
Love you, Mama.
And Thank you, Preacher Moss, for coming along. It sounded all pretty serious then, but I tell you what, at the show last Friday and Saturday in Melbourne, it was just a blowout. So get there. If you haven't been, get on our website. It's got all the details. Make sure, buy the DVD, of course. What more plugs do they want? Give a big Salam Cafe thank you to Preacher Moss. That's it for this week. Next week we've got a special guest, Mr. Hastalel from the Australian Multicultural Foundation. So until then, Salam Alaikum. Good night.